All right, everybody, welcome to today's episode. I want everybody to strap in for this one because the guest for today's episode was Dr. Julyse Migan-Gandonou Horr. I think I'm pronouncing that right. She pronounces it within the first 30 seconds. So if it's wrong, I apologize. She is a Ph.D. holder in applied behavior analysis. She is also a board certified behavior analyst, and she is a licensed behavior analyst. So we spoke at length about behavioral engineering or applied behavior analysis, and it made for a very interesting conversation. We also touched on some things economically, politically, culturally, her experiences coming over here from Africa to Florida to Texas. Also, there was a stop in New York. How can we forget about that? How you doing? So, strap in. I really appreciate having her on. It was really educational for myself. Did some decent research beforehand, and she was able to take things to another level during the show. All right. Don't forget Tony Talks 8 podcast at gmail.com and Tony Talks 8 on both the Twitter and the Instagram. All right. Here comes the intro.
Brand new start of it in old New York.
Thank you for celebrating your Easter Sunday. And what better way to celebrate it than with Tony Talks? Can I call you Julyse, or do you prefer Dr. Horr? Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, Dr. Horr. It's actually Dr. Migan-Gandonou Horr because I kept my last name and I just added my husband's last name. But for short, Dr. Horr. But you can call me Julyse.
So let me ask you, first off, how are you holding up personally with the quarantine, the pandemic, and being in the house and everything?
I don't. At first, I was like, yeah, this is cool. I don't have to go out. I can stay in here and just work from home. But after probably like 3 weeks, I was like, I don't like this. Like, I don't like
this.
I want to go out. Like, and I'm not a person that likes to go out, but I like going out when I want to go out. Like, if I want to go out, I want to be able to go out. And if I don't want to go out, I want to stay home. And so it's nice out now. It's been cold forever, and I hate the cold. I moved from Florida, so I hated the weather. So now it's nice. I'm like, I want to go out, and I can't. So
Well,
I don't
you were
like.
in New York before. You were in New
Yeah,
York before Florida, so like real cold.
yeah, but see, I didn't move from New York to Texas. I moved from Florida to Texas. So
Right.
yeah,
Okay. Touche.
New York was colder than Texas, but I don't remember. Like, New York was what? I left New York in 2011.
Yeah, it's enough
So
time to forget about it.
yeah.
When I moved from New York to Texas in the military, and it was cold outside, and I would be like, "Fuck, it's cold." They're like, "Well, didn't you come from New York?" I'm like, "Yeah, I still feel cold though. I wouldn't go outside and just sit in it, you know." That was annoying, but it's getting nice now. So today's probably the nicest day in a while.
Yeah, it is. And that's why I'm pissed because I'm like, it's so nice out and I can't go out. So
And you guys were doing a lot of workouts, sprints in the yard and everything. Have you been able to keep up with that regimen?
so I stopped the sprints. I used to sprint twice a week, probably since 2018, and I stopped because we suspected that I had a miscarriage in December, and my mom was like, you probably shouldn't sprint because it's such a high intense workout. So I stopped sprinting in I would say like January, February, and I've just been walking, squatting, bike riding. But yeah, the sprinting stopped.
Okay, I was not familiar with that. I wish my intel had given me some type of more heads up. So thanks, Dolasi, because she'll probably actually listen to this episode. Um, so how do you think how are you practically applying the social distancing are you guys going to grocery stores every day? Not every
No,
day, obviously. Nobody goes to a grocery store every day. But are you
we're
just going, or are you just doing pickups?
We're doing Instacart. So we were going up until last month. And then once they said, I read somewhere where they said that it's probably airborne. This was like late March. So we just stopped. We stopped going. We used Instacart once so far. We just ordered today, so we should be getting it tomorrow. But no, we haven't gone anywhere.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but in my very limited research in applied behavioral, it's applied behavior?
Yeah, some people say applied behavior analysis. Some people said applied behavioral analysis. Same meaning.
The social distancing and what the government's plans are that they're trying to like enact without like legally enforcing it, which would be like I guess martial law or whatever. It seems like it's rewarding certain behavior for the long term. Is that how you think of it when you're hearing about this stuff? Because it's weird when I was reading about this and kind of tying it into what's going on now.
So the way they're doing it is probably not going to be effective, just because there's no one enforcing it.
It's good to know.
And two, there's no reinforcement. So in behavior analysis, we know that consequences affect future behavior. And a consequence doesn't always mean something bad. A consequence literally means an event or a stimulus that follows behavior. So if you do social distance, first of all, we have to define what's social distancing, right? So, and they did a good job at defining it. You have to maintain at least 6 feet distance between you and someone else. But you have to remember that all of us operate under positive reinforcement for the most part, meaning for any behavior to increase or maintain, it's got a contact reinforcement. You have to reinforce the behavior so that it continues to happen or that it increases. So when they're saying social distance, what is in layman's term, what's the reward for social distancing? Like what, as an individual, I keep the distance? What am I getting at?
What would be reinforcing? How would you reinforce that?
So reinforcement, for example, could be, okay, for every person that maintains X amount of distance for X amount of time, we will give them, this, whatever, because everybody has different reinforcers. Most of us like money. Most of us like gifts.
When I'm thinking of this now, it's like when you have a dog, you tell them to sit, the dog sits, so you give them a treat.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you kind of create that. What would be the term that you create for that?
Yeah, that's how you reinforce that behavior. Reinforcement just means
reinforcement. That's just reinforcing. Okay, sorry.
And you know that it's reinforcing if the behavior that you just reinforced goes up. So if you said sit, the dog sits, you give them a treat, you say sit, and they sit again, then you know that the treat was a reinforcer. Because remember, consequences only affect future behavior, not present behavior, future. So if you tell me stay away from, this person, for X amount of time or X amount of distance, and for doing that, I will give you, let's say, a gift card or a gas card, or you can not have to pay your rent, right? If I'm likely to do that again, then whatever you just gave me was a reinforcer. So all of us are operating under some level of positive reinforcement.
So if the government was able to provide the stimulus checks to only those that were following the behavior, that would be something that could be a reinforcement tool. But since there's no way to gauge that, it's kind of impossible.
Right. And also the other thing is, there's something called negative reinforcement, and people think negative reinforcement means bad reinforcement. Negative just means that you're removing something from the environment. So the thing with, when I take a pill because I have a headache, right? Taking the pill is the behavior, right? So I take the pill, the headache goes away. The headache was removed. Am I likely to take a pill again in the future when I get a headache? Yes. Why? Because the pill was a reinforcer. It was a negative reinforcer because it removed the headache. But the problem with social distancing, right? They're telling people, well, by social distancing, you're removing the threat of having COVID, right? But the problem with that is, well, I don't see it. I don't have it. How do I know that if I social distance, I'm not going to have something that I don't even know is here? I don't have it. So what's what's the reinforcer there? Not having something? Well, I don't have it right now. So
Could it be that the sooner if people start applying this, they stay at home, like we need to stay at home, everybody. So the sooner everybody stays at home, the reward or the reinforcement would be business going back to normal. Does that make sense? Or because it's not tangible, it's just kind of like abstract and
it's not that it's not tangible, is how immediate is it? So reinforcers have more power when they're immediate. If you tell me if everybody,
immediate. Okay, that's the thing. Did
yeah,
you ever watch Big Bang Theory?
yes, I used to.
There was an episode where Penny was being trained without knowing it from Sheldon because he
Yeah,
didn't like the way her voice sounded.
yes.
So he was giving her a treat and she was like,
Mhm.
"Hi." Hi.
Yep.
And because that's very positive reinforcement. That's what that is. I'm like, see, this is stuff that's probably been every day in people's lives, but you just don't. And that's what your profession is.
Yes. So we're not doing anything. We're not doing anything new. Like we didn't create anything new. So what we're doing as behavior analysts, and another term for what we do is called behavior engineering. So what we do,
I've read that. Sorry,
yep,
go ahead.
it's okay. So we look at, so first of all, what is behavior analysis, right? So behavior analysis is the science of behavior of organisms, right? So first and foremost, it's a science. Applied behavior analysis is taking the laws and the principles of behavior and applying it to behaviors that are
To
socially important.
to change or alter it.
To
That's the
change,
application.
yes, that's the application. So we take we know the principles behavior. Reinforcement is a principle of behavior. Punishment is a principle of behavior. If you touch a hot stove, you're less likely to do that again because touching the hot stove was punished by that hot, stimulus. So those are principles of behavior. And we're saying, okay, we also know that behavior cannot happen in a vacuum. Behavior is a function of its environment. So what we do as behavior analysts is we're saying, okay, there's this particular behavior. We want to understand why is this behavior even happening? What are the environmental variables that are responsible for this behavior happening? What we do is we identify those variables, those sources of reinforcement, and then manipulate them. So people think we control behavior. That's not what we do. We manipulate the environmental variables that control behavior. Because if you can do that, then you can indirectly, quote unquote, control behavior. So I have a lot of families who tell me, oh my God, like my kid used to do this and now he doesn't do this. You were able to control his behavior. No, I did not control your child's behavior. I don't control people's behaviors. I identify, okay, why is this person doing this? What environmental variables are responsible for this behavior? And then I manipulate those by either adding it, changing them, or removing them.
Okay, so you manipulate Healy or specifically the environmental factors.
Yes.
Would you, if could people have behaviors that are just based on habit from stuff that happened to them years ago, and it's kind of like
We call that history of reinforcement. So any behavior that you are engaging in, right? So right now you have your hands on your lips. That's a behavior, right?
okay,
I'm
thank you.
saying,
Now I'm self-conscious about it.
no, that's fine. Any behavior that we engage in is there for a reason. It serves a purpose. Okay.
Okay.
We have something called functions of behavior. A function of behavior means what purpose does that behavior serve the individual? So we engage in behaviors for positive social reinforcement. That looks like attention. If you think of, for example, a great way to find out if a behavior is there because of attention, look at social media. If you've got people just like jumping off, cliffs or, engaging in memes, what's maintaining that behavior? It's reinforcement. But what is the actual reinforcer? Likes. So if you think of likes are reinforcers. How do you know that likes are reinforcers? Are you more likely to post something if people like what you post? Yeah. Therefore, I know now, okay, the reason why Tony posts is because posting is getting reinforced through likes, through people telling him, hey, that's awesome, I love your channel. So that's what we do. We look at the behavior and we're like, why is this behavior happening? Who's guilty for this behavior?
And would you look at why they have why people that post in order to get likes have a desire or need to get the likes, and would you try to change their opinion or however it affects their brain to how they view getting likes, like to make it seem like not as important?
So we can't change. We One of the
'Cause-
limitations of ABA is we don't go inside the mind, right? Because our premise is the behaviors have to be observable and measurable. Okay? I can't observe what's going on in your mind. I can only observe what goes on in the environment. Because remember, the environment manipulates or controls behavior, right? So behavior doesn't happen out of nowhere. It happens within the context of the environment. So I would have to look at the environment, okay? Is there a way that I can perhaps either manipulate what happens before they post or manipulate what happens after they post? For example, if you are posting videos of you, I don't know, jumping over fences, right? That's the behavior. It's problematic.
Parkour.
Parkour. Okay, parkour. You're doing parkour. So yeah, that's the behavior that I'm like, man, like I kind of want to like punish this, but again, punishment is that's another topic. But so I'm looking at the behavior and I'm like, what's happening after they do that, right? So typically it's like, yay, good job, or they get a lot of attention. So two things I can do. I can manipulate the consequence, which is what happens after. I can tell people, okay, every time this person does this, everybody ignores him. Do not say good job. As a matter of fact, turn your back, right? Don't say anything, and let's see if the behavior is going to go down, if they're doing that for attention. And typically what you find is if somebody's engaging in a behavior to gain attention, once you remove the attention, the behavior goes down.
Because that was the reinforcer.
Because yes, perfect. Because the reinforcer was attention. And how do we know it was a reinforcer? Because it was maintaining that behavior. It made that behavior continue to happen over and over. You remove that, if in fact that was the source of reinforcement for that behavior, then that behavior is going to go down. So that's one way of
So
behavior.
to go back to what we were talking about, like with Instagram, likes, views, that's the attention. That's how you can measure attention. And that's the reinforcer for people's posting things specifically, just to get likes, just for that attention.
Presumably, yes. And we measure this by the rate of the behavior. If the behavior is posting, we look at what we call a baseline. So before attention, how many times is this behavior happening on average a day? So if I want to look at posts per day, right? So I can count that. That's something that we can observe, we can measure. Every time they make a post, I will kind of, tally it. So let's say, when they were, baseline levels were they were posting 5 posts a day, and on average they would get 10 to 15 likes. Then we now increase the number of likes. You see the behavior going up.
Okay, right, that makes sense.
Likes, the behavior goes. You stop providing likes, and what you'll see initially, and we call this a burst. What you see initially is when you take away the reinforcer. So let's say it was attention. You kind of withhold the attention. The behavior is going to go up first. Why? Because now the individual is like, wait, this used to work. What do I need to do now to get the attention? So they're going to engage in behaviors that are even worse to get the attention. But as long as you withhold that attention, eventually the behavior goes down. So on a graph, we use graphs. We graph data. The behavior will go up, and then it will gradually go down because the reinforcer is no longer there. If you go to Starbucks and the reinforcer is, getting your cup of coffee because if it's open. You go to the same Starbucks at noon. Everybody knows Starbucks is open at noon. You go there at noon, no one's there. Initially, you're probably going to be like banging on the door like, hey, what the fuck? It's noon. Like, I know you guys are here, right? So there's going to be that increase in behavior to try and gain that cup of coffee. But what's going to happen after 10 minutes of knocking? What's going to happen if no one answers the door? You're going to stop. You're going to stop. So that initially you're going to have that burst of like, hey, I need my cup of coffee.
So this is like if a baby's crying, then you ignore the baby and the baby stops crying.
Yes.
But is it also, huh?
I wouldn't recommend doing that to a baby because you got to know why.
That's what I was going to say, but that could cause an issue with the baby's development or create trust issues or something.
Well, see, that trust issues, that's more of a psychological term. So we don't, again, our premise.
So this isn't a psychology field.
So in
Sounds
some
like it sounds like it's like a sociology field with a psychology field. You're like,
it's
no, no sociology.
sociology. Now, the science itself is relatively new. ABA is a relatively new field. So up until a few years ago, it was always under psychology. So you would get a master. So I have a master's in psychology with a concentration in ABA. But then my PhD is in applied behavior analysis. It used to be that most ABA programs were in the context of psychology, but we are not. We are not psychology because
Sorry.
psychology relies on a lot of hypothetical constructs, like things that you can explain, but you can't necessarily demonstrate why they're happening. We are concerned with everything we say. We're able
Okay.
to describe
Okay.
it, and measure and observe it.
Right. So yes, like psychology is. I see what you're saying because it's you can't really measure the mind or like if somebody has anxiety or depression, you can't really physically be able to measure that. Whereas with ABA, you can actually provide data and
Yes.
you
So
know.
I've had clients with anxiety, right? And so
Mhm.
the anxiety is the disorder, but I always tell their parents or the individuals, anxiety is not the behavior issue, right? I can't measure anxiety. I cannot observe anxiety. However, what I can do is measure the behaviors that are symptomatic of anxiety. So if you tell me, okay, I have anxiety
I see what you're saying.
when I
Sorry, go
see
ahead.
when I see X, my hands start doing this, right? This is something I can measure. I can measure the duration, like how long is this happening for? I can measure, what happens after you do this, right? I can measure that, but I can't tell you, hey, I'm measuring your anxiety, like I'm observing your anxiety. No, behaviors. You have to remember the B in ABA is behavior, so it's got to be a behavior that, and not saying that thinking is not behavior. So in my line of work, there's something called radical behaviorism. We're saying that thoughts are behaviors. We just can't see them, but they're
Right.
behavior.
And th this is kind of relevant too now because I know a lot of people that are having like increased in levels of anxiety just because of all this coronavirus shit that's going on right now. So I'm constantly saying like, hey, go for a walk, go turn the news off, lock yourself away from all this shit, get away from people that drive me crazy with it.
Mhm.
So that's kind of a behavior that you're trying to change because
Yes.
they're expressing symptoms of anxiety, right? Does this make sense? You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
absolutely. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Because that you can measure. Like I can't measure that
And if they
individual.
feel different, if I feel sorry,
That's
sorry,
okay.
if I'm in this room and I feel different, I feel at peace here. Whereas if I'm in a different room and I'm like all shaky and panicky, changing the environment, the change in environment would result in a change of behavior.
Yes.
That's what you would measure.
Yes, that's what I would measure. We're measuring the behaviors, but we're manipulating the environmental variables. And there are two, by the way. There are two environmental variables that maintain or rather control behavior: antecedent and consequences. That's it. We call that in behavior
Wait,
analysis
what was the first one?
antecedent.
Antecedents?
Yep,
And
Antecedents.
okay. And in layman's terms.
Antecedents are events that happen right before behavior. So
Oh,
if the bell rings and you go and get the door, I mean answer the door, the
the bell
behavior
ringing.
door, the bell is the bell ringing, yes, very good, is the antecedent. So
Okay, the
antecedent,
behavior is getting up. I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off too much. I feel a little bit.
it's okay. So
I'm
the
just
behavior,
trying because I know people are probably like have similar intelligence to me, so I'm trying to like make sure like I understand it so they understand it.
that's fine. But yeah, so we look at when we talk about we analyze behavior, right? We're not really analyzing the behavior itself. We're analyzing antecedents and consequences because we understand that those are the environmental variables that control behavior, right? So we're not really controlling behavior like I said earlier. We're just manipulating the things that control the behavior. And those things are antecedent variable and consequence variables. That's what controls behavior. What happens before the behavior and what happens after. The difference between antecedents and consequences is that consequences only affect future behavior, whereas antecedents affect present behavior.
So laws, this is the big thing with laws and how to break, if people are in a bad cycle of constantly breaking the law,
Mm-hmm.
their consequences obviously aren't working to break that cycle of behavior.
Well, it's working. Remember, if the behavior keeps happening, that means that there's something maintaining it, and that's reinforcement. So it's
I'm saying
working.
like if they keep breaking the law,
Yes.
the consequences aren't relevant enough. I like to say severe enough because it's all different and every person's different. So when you're trying to have everybody in society have the same laws, you can't just have specific things for individuals. You have to apply it to the whole. And that's probably part of the problem with laws because some people just don't care. Where others are so fearful of the laws, they'll be more obedient or have their behavior, be civilized for a society.
The problem has to do with a misunderstanding of the laws of behavior. That's why laws don't work. Most of the laws don't work because if you understand one, for example, consequences affect future behavior, right? That's the first thing. Consequences that happen immediately after behavior affect behavior more effectively than consequences that are delayed. So if I run a red light, right? So we know we're not supposed to run red lights. But if I run a red light, and this was, I don't know if it happened in here, but I know in New York, lights, right? There, so some, traffic lights.
Cameras, the tickets. I hate those things.
Yeah, but look at how delayed the consequence is. So I run the red light right now. It's 12 o'clock. I run the red light. I don't get a ticket in the mail until probably next month. Between today and next month, I probably ran more red lights, right?
That's
it's delayed. One,
right.
It's delayed, and also think about the fine. So now we're talking about punishment, right? So punishment is a consequence. Reinforcement is a consequence. You don't want to think that consequence just means bad. A lot of people think consequence means bad. In ABA, we understand that consequence just means anything that follows behavior. Right? So if you're going to use punishment, right, you have to understand what punishment is. And a lot of people don't realize that punishment is a process, but it's also a procedure that can be misused. So if I go to jail for, let's say, I murder someone, I go to jail. I'm probably not going to jail tomorrow after I murder this person, right? There's a trial. All these things are going to happen, right? So the consequence is already delayed. And now I go to jail. Now, when you're implementing consequence, when you're implementing punishment, you only know that punishment works if the behavior goes down, which means you have to give a chance for behavior to happen. If I put you in jail, obviously you're not going to have a chance to offend in jail. But how do I know that punishment worked? I only know because I have to look at the future frequency of you killing again. So what people are doing, it's not punishment. When you're looking at behavior, so as a behavior analyst, I see a lot of things wrong with laws, but it's not because the laws themselves don't work. It's because of the way they're being implemented. A lot of people who are implementing these laws or creating these laws don't understand human behavior. For example, and this is probably going to go into politics, but for example, the whole idea of universal basic income, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The principle of reinforcement states that reinforcement, one, affects future behavior, right? So behavior happening in the future, but it has to follow behavior. That's why it's called a consequence. It follows behavior. There's also this process called non-contingent reinforcement. It's when reinforcement is being given without the requirement to do anything, right? So think about, I'm giving you money every 30 days. Whether or not you work, I'm going to give you money every 30 days. Tons and tons of research. I actually have a manuscript that I'm sending for publication about this. Tons and tons of research have shown that if you give things freely, especially reinforcers, if you give reinforcers freely, the individual receiving it is not going to work for it. Why? It makes sense. I'm gonna get it anyway. Whether or not I work, I'm going to get it. So what's going to happen with productivity? It will go down.
Well, is the point of universal basic income isn't to stop people from working.
Yes, and that's the problem with some of these policies. Their intentions are good, but they have no understanding of the laws of behavior. What I just explained
But
is the law.
what about the idea that by putting more money into that, say I'm working and I have a stay-at-home wife,
Mhm.
probably never happen. But let's say, and I get the universal basic income, she gets universal basic income. If she's able to create an opportunity with that money, with that extra funding a month to create, and you know what, this is probably, I think what you're saying probably applies to the vast majority of cases. But I'm probably talking about the minority of cases where someone's going to create like an online business or do something creative to help augment or add more to the economy. But for the most part, that's probably not going to happen.
Mhm.
That's
It's so the law of behavior is so there are laws because they apply to everyone, animals and humans. There are no exceptions. That's why they're called laws. So initially they start out as theories. So reinforcement started out as a theory, punishment started out as a theory, non-contingent reinforcement theories, and then you test them. How does a theory become a law? You test it over and over and over through rigorous experimentations, and then you see the same result across the board. You see this in animals. So when I started in the experimental branch of behavior analysis. So I worked with pigeons. So I had to test all of these things, reinforcement with pigeons, punishment with pigeons, extinction, withholding reinforcement with pigeons. Then I went and applied those to humans. It's the same across the board, right? So if you provide reinforcement independent of doing work, there's the individual is not going to work because it's coming. It goes against nature.
but would you agree that there are cases where individuals would do more with that money?
Right, but if they were doing more with the money, is what is doing more with the money? Is it working? Is it what is
Hey,
work?
being able to be creative with it, and I think part of the thing with universal basic income is just because there's will be automation that's going to get rid of so many jobs where it could create distress in society. If I'm a truck driver and all of a sudden I don't have that job anymore because now Silicon Valley created a truck that doesn't need somebody driving it anymore. I I to augment my recent unemployment, you give people that universal basic income to help alleviate the stress that would come from that.
So let me ask you this: if you get the universal income, right? Everybody's getting it, by the way. Not one person. Everyone's getting it. So everyone gets it.
Right.
Now you take
Hmm.
that money, you invest into opening a automobile place, right? You're gonna need people to work, aren't you? You're gonna need people to work in that business of yours. But those people are also getting $1,000, the same money you're getting. So what's the incentive for
But
them to
then,
work?
but nobody's going to sit down and not work if it's just $1,000. You can't unless I get like three roommates. I'm not going to be able to have my own place for the thousand. And maybe there's some areas of the country where that's enough.
And maybe, yeah, maybe you're right. So if I'm already making six figures and you give me $1,000 every month, well, it's not. I'm going to continue working because the $1,000 is not the reinforcer. My paycheck is a reinforcer, right? So this is going with the presumption that the money, the $1,000 is a reinforcer. If I'm not working, if I'm already working, right? If I'm already working and earning money, the money that I'm earning is reinforcing my work, not the $1,000. That's what I'm saying. Like if you're giving me $1,000, right, it's not going to make me work more. You
Of
have to
course, yeah,
work to earn a living, right?
yeah.
But if I give you money to earn a living without working, you're not going to work, and that's fine. Some people are okay with that, but from a economic perspective, productivity goes down, the economy goes down.
But what do you say then to and I was an Andrew Yang supporter. That's why
Oh my God, I can't. No.
and I'm a libertarian. So a lot of it's like the opposite of what I believe. But after I mean, you have a manuscript on it. But after just I read his book and listened to him and actually donate a little bit to his campaign too and stuff. um, he the $1,000 a month isn't necessarily to, but what do you say to like automation that's coming at some point? Because at some point, a lot of jobs will be, and look at the malls are shutting down.
Mhm.
Um,
But you're still gonna need, so let's say we go back in time 20 years from now. Let's say I'm Jeff Bezos, and I'm telling people, hey, in 20 years I'm gonna take over the postal service. I'm not just gonna sell books. I'm gonna sell
I'm
everything.
sorry, you're saying this is 20 years prior
Right. So I'm saying let's take
in
a
the
step back.
past.
20 years ago, right? And I'm
Okay.
saying, okay, I'm gonna 20 years from now, I'm gonna be selling so many things. I'm gonna take businesses. The fear is businesses are gonna go out of business, right? But think about what's happened
You're
now.
creating jobs.
Created jobs. Why? Because you take something away. So what happened with the USPS? I can't remember the last time I ordered something and it came in the mail through USPS, other than like mail, right? I'm ordering everything through Amazon. Who's delivering those things to me? People. So, people have this idea, okay, if you take this away, then nobody's, well, people still have to work. Talk about automation, right? So banks, let's say now banks are going to only online banking, right? Somebody needs to work to keep those websites going, right? Somebody's still gonna have to talk to someone, right? Somebody has to work in that. So coding, for example, that's now going to be in demand. So that's still work.
Yeah, I understand that, but I think, and this is something that he addresses too, part of it is there's going to be a period of time
Mhm.
where the new jobs that are being created, there's not going to be enough skilled people in those professions to fill those new jobs. And there are people that are going to be shit out of luck because they don't have those new skills. They're not going to be able to, there'd probably be something where a percentage of them will be able to learn it, but some might not want to learn it or whatever, or they'll say, I've been doing this for so long, and now I'm not relevant anymore. This is something that's happened. I mean,
Right, and I could
throughout.
totally see that happening, especially like let's say the older generation, for example. But my thing with these policies is the intentions are good. Like I'm not going to sit here and say these people are just evil. They just want to do these things to hurt people. No, I really think Andrew Yang's policies, I think they come from a good place. But you have to understand how behavior works. You can't make policies and not know how human behavior operates, because the policies you're making are affecting people and people behave. So it's just you have to when they're making these laws, I think they're not consulting with the experts in
I
behavior.
think, you know what? I think you're gonna have to come back on the show when I get Andrew Yang on, and we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna figure this out because maybe there's a bridge we could connect. And I think a lot of times, do you think there's possibility that there's some type of bridge that we could connect?
I think there is, but something's got to lose. So for example, let's say the $1,000 thing, it's not going to be enough for a lot of people, right? Which means what? You're going to have to increase that. Where's that money coming from?
I'm not necessarily, but
$1,000 universal income. There's 300 million people plus 300 plus million people in the United States. You want to give $1,000 to every single I'm assuming it's probably going to be citizens, non-citizens. Where's that money coming from?
first of all, we don't got enough money to pay for what we have now. We have $24 trillion in debt. Like every year it gets worse.
Let's add more to that, and then slow productivity.
No, with all the money that they spend on, there's billion-dollar projects that go to waste all the time. Whether it's obsolete aircraft that they come out with and they spend so much money on these defense contractors. And you're not going to the thing is, you're right, you're not going to be able to do it if you keep this level of government and then add more shit onto it. You have to.
You were in the military. I mean, I used to think, we shouldn't spend money on defense. But who the fuck is going to protect the United States if not the United States? Right? We're going to rely on France to help us. I'm a French citizen. I'm not going to rely on France to like help.
No, we don't have to. We don't have to. I mean, we should spend money on defense, but we spend so much money overseas. There's so many bases overseas, and that's probably, if you're going to start saving somewhere, you got to look where the fuck Because not only defending ourselves, we're defending Germany, who has like the fourth most nuclear weapons on the planet. Why the fuck are we, excuse me,
But
why are we defending Germany, Japan?
you
We've
think
been
we're
Korea forever.
do you think we're
Huh?
defending that? Do you think we're defending them because we want to be like, oh, we're saving the world, or because our own interests are at heart? Like,
That's the thing. And the part of, and you know, if you look at like something, if you look at the 9/11 Commission report, a big factor that played into 9/11 officially was blowback because we've been overseas influencing everybody or putting our self-interest all over the world. So again, now blowback happens and then we get attacked. So it might be in our self-interest to be over there, but it's creating even more of a problem for us, where it's just creating more enemies for us. That's my opinion. And there's
I don't think when I'm saying we need to spend money on defense, I'm not saying spend money on sending people to like, all of these places. I'm saying like people are complaining that too much money is going towards the military. And I'm like, well, it should, because if you don't have a military, you're fucked.
no, it should, but there's so much. There's also a lot. I'm not. Look, there's a lot of waste, and in a lot of places, and unless we start taking things seriously enough, where we actually start moving towards balancing a budget, and places like Amazon can't be paying no taxes either.
See, that's my thing though, right? So why shouldn't Amazon? Is it illegal? Did it do something illegal? Did
No,
Jeff
but
Bezos?
right. No, I'm not saying they did anything illegal, but where's the boundary? Where's the difference between legal lines and moral lines?
Job. Oh, first of all, one thing. So at Curtis High School, I went to Curtis High School in Staten Island, and it was this. They had these programs. So if you wanted to go into law, you could take pre-law classes. If you want to go to nursing, you could take nursing classes. I remember taking this one time because my mom didn't want me to be a lawyer. She's like, lawyers have no morals, which they don't. But one thing they said is, do not law and morality don't go together, and that's the problem. So when we're talking about
Well, it's ethics. Law isn't
right,
law
yeah, yeah,
isn't what.
ethics and morals, yeah, those are great.
We're way off course from where I thought we would be, but keep going.
That's fine. But like for me, it's like morals. I want to have morals, right? But my morals could be different from yours. Whereas laws apply to everyone,
Well,
right? So what law
is it?
did Jeff?
Morals are different on an individual basis, but ethics are for the whole. So
Do you know that the ethics of, let's say, a lawyer are different from the ethics of a doctor? Again, they're not the same across the board. Only laws can be applied across the board, not
yeah,
ethics.
but laws are supposed to be based on the ethics of a society for the most part. Nothing ever is across the board. Like there's always exceptions with everything.
Laws, though.
Laws are well, because why is but everything that's a law is because it's not right to do. Not that it's like that, but
Mhm.
the point is to make it close to right, with quotes, as
Yes,
possible, ethically right.
right as possible. But the problem with that, which is why I like laws compared to ethics, like I have to abide by my code of ethics within my profession. But the reason why I like laws is because you can't argue, you can't say no, this law, applies to me, it doesn't apply to you. No, ethics you can. So we have a code of ethics, for example, you can't
Exactly.
treat members. In my code of ethics as a behavioral analyst, I cannot treat family members. But it's not me treating someone is not breaking the law. It's breaking a code of somebody else may be able to treat their family. I'll tell you right now, if my family needs help, I'm helping them. I don't care, right?
Right.
I'm not
Yeah, of
breaking the law.
course.
With the Jeff Bezos thing, and Corey, my husband, same thing. He hates the fact that this guy didn't pay taxes. And I'm like, if you have a good CPA who knows the law, the tax laws, and they know the loopholes, you can't be mad. You know the expression, don't hate the player, hate the game. People are hating the players, hate the system that allows Jeff Bezos to not pay.
That was my whole point. I'm not saying if anybody could pay zero in taxes, they would pay zero in taxes. But you have to look at the whole system that's in place, and the whole thing probably needs to be revamped on some level.
So what's the problem with with not paying taxes if you're creating thousands of jobs, and those people are also paying taxes, by the way. So what
Right.
would you rather like everybody just like has their own maybe like 2 employee business and everybody pays taxes, or have, I
No,
mean,
I'll tell you what I'll tell you what my issue is, and I'm gonna put it like very simply. Jeff Bezos's wife is the richest woman in the world just because she got a divorce from Jeff Bezos. How
that's
much money do they need to take at the top and then not pay any taxes? And the woman just married Jeff Bezos and is the richest woman in the world.
all I know is that the reason
That's, I mean,
that's
and
why
listen, if they're not going to pay taxes, that's fine. But create it so that we could all, like people that are supporting it and standing it up, get less taxes too, and then cut spending. The whole thing is, and we're not going to solve the economic issue. Well, maybe we will, Julyse. Maybe you and I could do it.
we have economics, behavioral economics. If you get all these people together, yes, they're having people that are probably, I mean, I don't want to say that everybody in the administration is incompetent, but how many people, there's a field in behavior analysis that's called behavioral economics. That's what my dissertation was in, right? It's literally has to do with like spending, but from a behavioral perspective. How many, I don't know any of the big names in behavioral economics that are working for policies. Like that's the problem. I feel like the policies have good intent. I refuse to believe
Of
that
course.
they're saying, oh,
Well,
let's
who knows? I'm not going to say one way or another. Who knows? But
I like to
people.
give them the benefit of the doubt. I really don't want to believe that Democrats are sitting there saying, how can we fuck these people over in the best way we can? It's for the politicians to do that. I think that they're like, okay, how can we help these people? But the policies they're using have no like, understanding of human behavior. And I think that's what's wrong. Like it just, these people don't know what the fuck I feel like they know what they're doing, but you can't make laws that are going to affect every single person's behavior without having an understanding of
Of what the
behavior.
behavior, how the behavior. Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's like,
fair. Yeah, and ironically enough, most of them are lawyers.
yeah.
So, and like lawyers they don't like they.
I don't think lawyers have morals or ethics. If they do, it's certainly not like allowed in their work, right? I mean,
No,
the
of
fact that law
course not. Like
knows,
Hillary Clinton was caught on tape bragging about getting somebody off for like rape or murder or something,
see, like that to me, it's like
and she's looked at today as like somebody of high moral, and but it's like,
I never understood like how. Like I never, I don't know. Yeah, but we just need more people that have an understanding of the laws of behavior, because these are
here's
things.
my idea. This is my idea. We need to get rid of Congress. We need to get rid of the Senate. We need to get rid of the presidency. Get rid of the Supreme Court. It shouldn't be 9 people that determine what's right and what's, because that's what the Supreme Court pretty much is. They're supposed to determine if it's constitutional, but they're part of a political party. They toe the party line. Not that they're technically not, but if you're appointed by a fucking Republican, that's a Republican Supreme Court justice. It's a Democratic Supreme Court justice. Should just have like a council of like a couple hundred people from every walk of life have a say in what goes on. Because if it's just popularity contests all over the place, you're gonna get what the hell we have now. It's a bunch of chimpanzees, without a fucking cage.
No, I agree. I agree
And
that.
then lobbyists, and then you got a whole problem with lobbyists and this whole shit show.
I mean, but I mean, money talks. That's the thing too. Money's the best lawyer you can have. So I don't know. Like my thing with the whole taxes thing, I'm like, this is a system in which we're in, and America's like, arguably, whatever you want to say, the greatest country, on the planet. So
Damn right.
right. Okay,
No, I don't know. I don't know. Every country is different. Everything, to me, everything is different, and you get used to where you are. But sometimes people get blinded by patriotism, for example, and they just reinforce their beliefs.
Right. So for me, like coming from a different, so I'm West African. I'm also French citizen. So I grew up in Africa. I grew up in France. And I also grew up here. So coming from the outside, I can see that a lot of Americans are really, really, I don't know how to say that, but they really think America is the only country.
Country. Yeah. No, it's America. There's a term for that. It's like American centric, or there's like some term for it. But I agree.
America is greater than a lot of countries. When it depends on what you're measuring greatness, right? So if you're saying it's the greatest country because of freedom, okay, you have to define, okay, what freedom? So one of the things that I used to say when people said, "Oh, America's the greatest country because we're free," and I was okay, free to do what? Free to like go wherever I want. I'm like, I lived in France. I could do that. Like, I don't understand.
Well, hold on. France, okay.
Not right now. You can't. Right now, you can't go anywhere. But America's great in a sense that your freedoms are really free. Like in France, for example, if you call somebody the N-word, or if you call somebody like a racial slur, you will get fined. Here, you can call somebody whatever you want. Yeah, people are going to be mad at you, but you're not going to go to jail, right? So
it's like you have the right to be an asshole here.
Yes, that's true freedom. Because freedom means what? There are no like impositions. There are no, obviously there's some. Exceptions.
There absolutely are. And a lot of stuff's been distorted too. Like the whole, you need a permit to have a protest now, which was never the case. That's not. But now there's certain restrictions on that. That's the First Amendment, the right to petition the government.
Oh,
but
wow.
Now you need permits for certain things, and there's a lot of gray area. But for the most part, yeah, this is a place where you could say and do not whatever you want, as long as it's not infringing on anybody.
That's the thing. You can't. The only thing you can't say is I'm going to murder you and act, because that is no longer even like speech. That's just act. That's a call.
Yeah, like the classic example is saying fire in a movie theater.
Yeah, that I don't get that one either. I don't know why that's but okay. But you can literally say like,
you're gonna create panic because people are gonna run out because they think it's a fire.
Yeah, that's true. But like in Africa, for example, you can't call your president, like what's her name? That female comedian, what she did, she had like Donald Trump's head, Kathy Griffin.
Kathy Griffin.
If you do that in some African country, you're dead. Like you're dead the next day or that night, right? So to that regards, then yes, America is the greatest country where people, I mean, I've never seen people, I mean, the freedoms that people have here, I'm like, you can't do that. Also, one thing that I do like about America is this is the country where you can come in from anywhere and make a life out of yourself and be wealthy within a generation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really, at least in my country, you have two classes. You're either rich or
you're from Ivory. I'm saying it the ignorant American way. You're from Ivory Coast.
So, you said it right. Yeah, that's Ivory Coast. Yeah.
But the French way is Côte d'Ivoire.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not gonna try.
Yeah, but Ivory Coast is literally the translation of Côte d'Ivoire, so it's not wrong. It's just literally it's Ivory Coast. Typical
ignorance. I'm ignorant about my ignorance.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I don't know how we got to the topic of America's great, but it is in certain aspects. I don't agree with all aspects of, like when people say it's great on every level. I'm like, education? No, it's not. It's just not.
We had somebody on the other day that was going in on the education system. My friend, the big cat.
Education system sucks. I mean, people from Africa come here, and my brother was like a BC student in Africa. He comes here, he skipped twice. Like how? I came here not speaking English. My brother and I, we did not speak English. My mother, no English. You gotta tell. She's still, you can tell by her accent. But like she was able to start a business from scratch, not knowing any English. Like where else can you do that? Like, I was like a C.D. student in France, and I come here, I'm like dominating everything. It's the education system sucks. It just for a country so great, to not invest money into your educational system is that I feel like that's the one thing when people say like America's the greatest country on earth. I'm like, pump your brakes. Like, what's the metric you're using here? If you're using freedom, then yeah, by all means. I can't think of any other country that allows this level of freedom.
Military.
Education. The military. You can't compete with the American military. So yes, but when you say it's just the greatest overall across every single metric out there, then no, I mean, it's just not.
Well, overall, if you weigh everything out.
Yes, it is. No, it is.
And everything. And the thing is, everybody weighs things differently.
Right, but what my issue, my beef is when you have people who have been born and raised here, have never left their zip code,
I
and
know.
say, oh, it's the greatest country. Like, I'm like, how the fuck do you know this? Like, I say America is the greatest country on earth because I've lived in Africa, I've lived in France, I've lived in 3 different states in America, so I have things to compare it to. Right, but when I hear people say, "Oh, it's just the greatest," I haven't been anywhere outside of my zip code, but I
I
just know
think, yeah, that whole blind patriotism,
that's
yeah,
scary.
it drives me a little crazy. Like like I love Peru. Like that, but the thing is, you can't like, well, I'm sure there's a way. I don't speak Spanish, so it'd be hard for me to like really develop myself economically over there. Shit. But there was like if I had to like pinpoint like where my favorite place to be, where just like culturally and just how the people were and just historically, like I love Peru.
Oh,
Um, and
interesting.
I've been like to Dubai,
Oh,
Italy, Germany,
what?
Spain. Huh?
Why Peru? You've been to all these other places.
I mean, I didn't live it. I would say I've visited other places and and like a lot of places I was at, I wasn't really like with the people, with the exception of like Peru, I'd say. But yeah, I was there for like a few months because I was studying abroad there. But it was just
Okay.
cool. I just loved it. Loved it.
Would you move there?
I mean, I would, yeah. I
You
would.
would. Oh
Yeah, I
wow.
would.
See, I do think America is great. I think it's the greatest country. No, based on
I think,
some, but I will not.
and
I don't want to retire here.
that's what I was just gonna say. Part of things is America provides. Look, I don't know. Some of my friends are gonna be mad at me. Like, listen. It provides a lot of like opportunity to springboard somewhere. But and if I could like set myself up for success, while I'm still, young, spry, and whippersnapper and everything, it would be cool at least to live somewhere else for an extended period of time. But it's because of the opportunity that's provided here where you can potentially like get a pension somewhere and go live off your, like I know a guy that is living off a pension in Costa Rica from the military. He did his retirement, got the benefits, and now he's fucking in Costa Rica just on his retirement pension.
But you can do that in other countries too. You can like the
I mean,
French
that's
government.
part. I'm not sure. Like I don't know. And yeah,
Uh,
I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah,
but
I'm sure. But
I
I'm
do.
saying, I'm not saying that's just here, but I'm just, I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, I see what you're saying. But I do like that here. I mean, that's the one thing because when I first moved here, I did not want to move to the United States because I lived in France. My mom was like, "Guys, we're going to America," and I'm like, "Wait, what? Like, I don't know English. I don't what?" So I have for the longest, I did not like it here. I was like, I just don't like it. I have to learn a new language. People don't like people that are African, and it. But over the years, I'm like looking. I'm able to compare all the different places that I lived in, and I have to say, like, the opportunity to go from like dirt poor to wealthy, like my one of my close friends, who's also my second maid of honor, like her family Cuban, right? So her father came here not knowing a lick of English, nothing but the clothes that he had from Cuba. And I think he came through like how most Cubans came through, like with the water rafts. This guy, I mean, she's fucking loaded. Her dad is loaded. One generation, not not speaking English, not born here, does not have. You have to understand, like, when you're coming from other countries, like you don't get a social security off the bat, and if you don't have a social security, you can't work. Like, so there's so many barriers that immigrants have, but yet they're able to make money, not just for themselves, for their children here in America. Where else can you do that within one generation?
So this is still the land of opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. It's the land of opportunities. I mean, to what my mom has been able to do, that it's like I'm like, okay, yes, she's religious. Obviously, there's like, that belief in God, but she had that same belief in God in Africa. She had that same belief in God in France, right? So I gotta believe that America is truly the land of opportunities. What infuriates me is people here don't take advantage of those opportunities.
That's
That's
then
what
that's
like
part of it. I think that's part of getting you just used to life as you don't know, so
not not
you take things for granted, I guess.
That's non-contingent reinforcement. I told you, you give things for free, you're not gonna work. Like if I get shit for free, now if I get $1,000 every month, right, for free, I'm probably not gonna stop working. Why? Because $1,000 is not the reinforcer. The money that I'm making from my job is higher than that, and that's what's gonna keep me working. But if I don't make any money, or I make $300, and you give me $1,000 a month, right? That now becomes a reinforcer, and I'm not working to get that $1,000. I'm not gonna do anything. I feel like there's a lot of free stuff here in America, and people don't. And I see that a lot. Not to like talk bad about the Black community, but this is true. The Black community doesn't take education serious. Not all of them, right? But like, and I say this because I went to Curtis High School in New York City, so a lot of white kids, a lot of Black kids, right? If you are smart, if you're Black and smart,
I went to Farrell.
where's that?
All white. You don't know what Farrell is? It's
So
Staten Island. The fuck?
what? Remember that school?
I know Curtis. I know every high school.
In Staten Island, it was Curtis High, but like, was that a private school?
Yeah. Farrell was Catholic school.
Well, there you go. Even more. But like, if you're smart, like people pick on you in the Black. Like, I don't see that in any other community where if you're smart, you're like,
No, that's
problem.
it's similar. Those people like when I was in school, like that's why I wasn't smart in school because people would pick on me if I was smart. But
No, I mean,
I mean, there's a level, there's like a type of smart. I mean, for some reason, if you're a certain type of smart, it's okay, but if somebody else is a different type of smart, it's not okay. Some shit, like, which is
that's
weird.
but I don't know. And that's what, like, when my experience is different, and I went to the same school as Julyse, as you know, and like Black people made fun of the Africans, like they literally made fun of us, and it was like, wait, what? I don't get it. Like I don't understand why you're making fun of me. We were the smarter, for the most part, the smarter kids. We took school serious because in Africa, at least in my country, in Ivory Coast, like I said, you're either rich or you're poor, right? So I was lucky enough to be part of the rich. My mom wasn't. My mom was raised poor, right? Like I said, you're either rich or you're poor. There's no middle. And so the only way to get out of poverty in Africa is education, but education costs money. So up until I think that the sixth or ninth grade, up until that, I think it's middle or high school, it's paid for. The education is free. When they say free, you can go to school for free, but you have to buy the textbooks, you have to buy the uniforms, you have to buy the learning piece is free, but everything
Mhm.
that you need to learn, you need to pay. So if you're poor, you're going to be poor. Your children are going to be poor. It's just generational. You're just going to be poor because the only way to get out is through education, which is not free. Here you have free education. People don't realize, like you do well in school, you can get a scholarship. You do well in sports, you can get a full ride scholarship. I mean, there's so many opportunities that just people don't take advantage of. And then you have these, Democrats who want to come up with more free shit. Like, what's going on with the free stuff right now? Have people measure. How about you measure the percentage of free stuff that's being utilized before you advocate for more free shit, right? People like want more socialism. What the fuck do you think you have now? You don't have all.
I know. Yeah, this is like,
You have a little bit of socialism. You have a little bit of capitalism, which I like. You want to have more socialism, more free stuff. People don't realize like education is free here from K through 12. It's free. It's not free in Ivory Coast. You have to pay. I mean, that was one of the things that I noticed when I moved here. I was like, textbooks are covered? Like, we don't have to pay textbooks? I mean, granted, in Africa, we could afford them.
how old were you? How old were you when you came here?
I was 13 or 14. I think I had just
You
turned.
did you speak English before you came here?
Nope, I learned Spanish and Italian as my foreign language in France because I never thought English. Where am I going to speak English? So no, I did not speak
And then
English until
next thing you know, you're going to America, and you're like, oh shit's okay.
I was like, wait, what? I skipped so many classes. Like, I have no idea. But my mom, same thing. My mom took English in Africa, but she skipped all of her English classes. Because you're not thinking, hey, I'm gonna be moving to America and have to speak. So no, my brother and I, we did not speak English. My mom didn't speak English either. We learned here. And that's my beef with a lot of people here. They're complacent. Like, you have all these opportunities. How are you gonna let immigrants come here into your country and be better than you academically, be better than you in certain professions, and then blame the government or blame those people. That's no. If they were able to do it, like, what do we have? Like, as an immigrant, what did I come here with that isn't available here?
Hunger.
Hunger.
And no, I'm saying not hunger in a literal sense, but like a drive.
The drive. I mean, yeah.
Whereas if you're born in a place, that's you already have it, and this goes back to what you were just saying, contingent reinforcement.
Non-contingent reinforcement.
Non-contingent reinforcement. Damn it! I was almost ready for my bachelor's.
You're almost there.
It's just like, because they like you're all in on something, and with athletes that are all in on a sport, that sport becomes their life. If you come here from another country to be successful, you're all in on being successful. But if you're coming here and you already have successful parents and things are handed to you, you're kind of like, just laissez-faire here for the ride.
Right. And so, but the policies are supposed to help. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, so when you
right, it's supposed to help everybody.
Right, but I mean, those policies are going to help primarily U.S. citizens, right? A lot of these policies are going to help U.S. citizens. Well, U.S. citizens already have advantages that non-citizens, don't have. So it's like, okay, so you want to give free this, more free that to people who are already born here with those privileges. Now you just want to give them more, and you wonder why things are just not working. You're doing the same thing over and over and expecting different, results.
I would venture to say, for people that come from other countries that stay here, that create wealth, see if the generations, if they're still here, if they still have that drive, or if they become complacent. Because a lot of us, like I hear, I'm kind of like in the middle of things, because I know, I have that drive, but I was also born here, but now I'm like, you got to get things into another gear. But I'm still, young enough to do that, fortunately. But like Italian immigrants, when they first came here, like we had, I don't even want to get into the type of wealth my family should have, but that we should have, because of what we did, because of what my grandfather and my first generations that came here, but now it's because people just got used to things and whatever. So now it's up to, you got to build things over again.
And so I wonder how much of it is, you were born into it, and therefore that's why as you get older, like, you don't really take it for granted, or is it like a cultural thing? Because in Africa,
I think there's a big there's like an immigrant mentality where that when the people go somewhere, especially here, you hear of America, the land of opportunity, but then you actually see the opportunity that you could create, you fucking go all in.
Yep.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
It's okay. I can tell you some cultures, some African cultures, and I'm sure, Asian cultures as well, West Indian cultures. A lot of cultures value education because, again, like I said, it's a way out of poverty. But you have to also remember, like my family, for example, like I did not grow up poor. So I grew up really wealthy. Like I lived in a mansion, but yet the drive is still the same as somebody who's poor. So that's why I'm like, is it, how much of it is you were born into it, or it's a cultural thing? Like my culture, like my African culture.
Did you have white privilege in Africa?
I had rich privilege. Don't get me started on white privilege.
Is that did you say don't? I missed that last one. Don't get you started.
Started on that white privilege bullshit. People now.
If I went to Africa, would I have white privilege?
Absolutely, you have privilege because you
are.
Oh,
really? I was just.
No, if an African American goes to Africa, right, they'll also have some level of privilege because they're coming with something that the people there don't have.
Oh,
so when I hear, and I know I'll just go into another topic, but like when I hear white privilege, right, I feel like everybody has privileges, right? So yes, there's a thing as white privilege. The problem I have with white privilege, the way it's being used by Black people, is White privilege is why I'm not going anywhere in my life. White privilege is the reason why I'm poor as dirt. White privilege is the reason why I'm incarcerated.
I did not want to go down. I was just,
Let them come at me. I don't care. Like people who know me already know that I'm like completely. I'm not gonna.
what are people? What are a fact besides if you said you were, but when you came here, you weren't rich. Were you rich when you came here?
Well, you have to be rich to be able to come here to some extent,
Okay.
right? Came, we had to buy, my dad was a CFO of a major airline company. My mom was she handled the budget. So yeah, we were well off. But once we got here, no, we started from, my mom had to clean toilets. I mean, we started
Yeah,
from,
so people really can't say anything to you about that's what I would think. I'm sure people would disagree,
yeah,
but
people still disagree. They still say, I mean, ask me if I care. But
that's
it,
the mental. That's how you should. I mean, you gotta be genuine.
yeah, I mean, to me, the problem that I see in a lot of like, like not to get into that topic, but it's a cultural thing more so than um, the government just isn't doing its job. Like, yeah, no government is perfect. If you rely on the government to be your savior, good luck. But I think cultures have to change. People's cultures have to change. Like, why is it that immigrants come here with not, like, I don't know many immigrants who come here filthy rich and maintain that, like, especially from Africa. Like, you have people who are wealthy in Africa, but they come here. Like I said, like, when I go to Africa, I'm a different person. I'm in a different class completely. But when we moved here, you could consider us like lower class, because we had to start from scratch. We didn't have a social security. You don't come here and right at the airport they're like, here's a no. You have to pay for that. You have to. There's so many barriers
Yeah, my
to
stepmom, she came here from Poland, my stepmom. So I kind of like saw her process of like immigrating.
hurdles. The hurdles of like even becoming, like, I'm still not a citizen, but mine is by choice as of this year because of my husband. He's like, you need to be a citizen. I want our kids to be citizens. So I have a green card. So every 10 years I renew it because I was like, I don't want to let go of my French citizenship, but then I found out that you can have both.
That's good.
But
That's good. I never understood why you have to, or why some people have to relinquish citizenship somewhere else. So that
never, I was
was
like, man,
like
look,
silly.
Americans so freaking egotistical that you have to let go of your other citizenships. So for the longest,
Yeah,
I was like,
right.
doing that. I was like, fuck you, not doing that. Keeping my
America.
yeah, no, I mean, I do like, America. I like a lot of the more I learn about, the policies, I look into where they come from, and it has its flaws. It definitely does. It's not perfect, but I
Anytime
can't.
people are involved, there will be flaws.
Right, exactly. Like, I mean, corruption. You have corruption in Africa. You have corruption here. You have people. That's the problem. It's people that are the problem, right? It's not the government. Is what? The government is a bunch of fucking people.
Yeah, the consistency is people everywhere, problems is everywhere. I mean, it's not a
Right?
coincidence that
You're
it's
gonna
just,
have problems. And then you have people of different cultures. You're gonna have some conflict. So yeah, but I still do think that it is the greatest country, you know, with respect to certain areas, But to just say that blanket statement is the greatest country, like, I don't want to retire here, right? I don't like the fact that, for example, the food here. If you want non-GMO foods, you have to be rich. Essentially, you have to go to fucking Whole Foods. Like, I can get $100 worth of stuff at HEB, and I'm gonna come back with a full trunk. I go to Whole Foods, I'm gonna get 6 things for $100 because I want to be. In France, I don't have to do that. GMOs are banned, right? So it's like it depends on what your values are. If you value health,
yeah,
then
listen, I agree with you. That's something I've always paid extra on was for the good food. Like if I'm like, fuck it, I'm investing in my health here.
right. But I hate that something as and I mean, I just that's the one thing that I'm like, I wish that it's been known that GMOs are not good. So like, if other countries can ban it, like, why? But yeah,
To
I
me,
took.
like you got there's got to be this is something where there should be long-term studies done, see how the food affects people differently, and then you could use that probably to say, hey, this isn't really even fucking food. This is
Seriously. So in Africa, for example, and a lot of people say, well, people die of starvation in Africa. Yeah, because there's not enough food. Why? Because our food is either imported or it's crops. right? So there's not enough. So we used to have this joke. The chickens in America are on steroids. The chicken in Africa would be the equivalent of like a pigeon here, right? Because we're not pumping them with, hormones. So the chickens are regular size. Which, by the way, chickens are not fed with hormones.
It's like small.
Small. They're small. And so we used to laugh and say, why are
We
the
got the
chickens?
steroid chickens. We got these giant fucking turkey chickens.
You got the fucking John Cena chickens up in here. And then, you wonder why people have all these diseases. Yeah, in Africa, in some countries in Africa, there's not enough food. But it's also because they're not mass producing food. That's why there's just not enough. Corey made
The
a great point.
gluttonous, the like gluttonous fucking, that drives me crazy. How because people have we consume so much shit, including our food, that if you just have to artificially make it.
The supply has to meet the demand. And Corey said it best. I used to argue with him about that. He used to work in the food industry for a company that worked in the food industry before we moved there. And he used to say, Julyse, you cannot compare France to America. France has what, 60 million people? America has 300 million people. That's 5 times more, right? So they cannot produce the same amount. Like it just can't be equal. So of course, that's why you have these companies that are, you have to meet the demand.
I don't know if that, because there's so much more. The whole there's a giant chunks of Middle America where you could just grow food.
Yeah,
So
you can't.
I don't know if it.
America is that. I mean, how many more?
I'm sorry, you cut in.
So how much of America is made up of that? What you just said, like those chunks where you can grow your own food. Like I feel like there's so many cities in America. It's hard. You can't. I mean, you would have to. Everybody would have to have a farm. Every single person would have to have a farm to be able to eat from their.
I don't
You know what I mean?
I don't know enough about it. I don't know enough about it to say one way or another. I would imagine that if there was a demand for, or that we'd figure out a way to have more organic food if there was an equal demand for it. If people weren't content paying cheap. You got to make I think you got to make it, if you can make it cheap and people want it, I think there would be a way to fill that gap.
It can't because of how many people you have to feed.
But there's so much land. Look, I don't know. I don't know because there's so much land here. That like
Right.
I think
How much of that land is actually being farmed, right? There's like just in Texas here, like we drive and there's just like land with nothing on it, right? So let's say you were to give everybody, if you want everybody to eat healthy foods, you would have to make the cost of healthy foods cheaper than unhealthy foods, right? So that's the first thing you need to do. But if you make it cheaper, somebody else is having to pay for that. So it's probably going to be the farmers. How many farmers are there out there? Are there more farmers than non-farmers, or the other way around?
So maybe the truck drivers that be automated, or a lot of stuff that gets automated, create a program to start farming programs to create real food.
I agree. I think there's a way. I just don't think we have that. I mean, that's the one thing where I'm like, I'm thinking about economics because I'm also reading into economics a lot, and I'm like, something's got to give. I feel like 300+ million people. The only way to make, organic food affordable, somebody's gonna have to lose, and I feel like it's gonna be the farmers. But yeah, not everybody wants to be a farmer. So it goes back to, okay, well, if you want to eat well, I don't know. That's the one thing where I'm like, I'm kind of on the fence, and I'm like, this is a capitalist society. France is not. So, in France right now, like with the quarantine, like you really can't leave. You will get a fee, like a fine for leaving your house. You have to download a thing that will give you permission to leave your house. Like,
right. That's part of, I said this on like a previous episode. People here, the reason why the spread is got as bad is because people just we take it for granted in a way, but we're just used to freely moving without any regard for anything.
Can you imagine you're trying to leave your house and an officer comes and says, where the hell are you going? Like,
no, I can't imagine. I cannot imagine that.
Well, that's happening in France.
Right. Yeah, France. That's happened in a couple. That's happened in Spain, Italy. It's been like that. I'm sure it's happening in
So when people say freedoms, I see what they mean by freedom. Like there are very, very few limitations on freedom here. And yeah, sometimes it's a bad thing. But the way I see it is, I would rather, even if I don't like somebody using their freedom of speech to like say something slanderous to me, I I always think about me, and I know it's selfish, but like, would I want somebody stopping me from saying something that I want to say? I wouldn't. So yes, I don't like when people say certain things. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's not true. I think it's offensive. But I go back to me. Like, what if I wanted to say black culture needs to change? Should I be taken to jail for saying that? Fuck no. So you know what? Let everybody say whatever they want to say. It's freedom of speech.
I think it's better if I think it's better if you're able to identify the assholes or the people that are. I think it's in the people that you have to see people for who they are, and if you create laws to change who people are, it's just not a genuine society. So
And that's one of the things
that's a
I
big thing.
that's one of the things I tell clients that I see, is especially parents of children with behavioral challenges. And I say, they'll tell me, can you change my child's personality? And I'm like, whoa, no, I do not change personalities. Now, if you tell me personality is a cluster of behaviors, then, by implication, perhaps I can. But if you're saying, I want you to change my child's personality, they're selfish, well, no, I'm not going to do that. If you tell me I want them to change their sharing behavior, I can change that. And if by doing that, you consider them to no longer be selfish, then maybe I did change a personality. But we don't change personalities, we change behaviors. I do believe that personality can be a mixture of behaviors and genetic traits. But yeah, changing. I feel like a lot of laws that leftists want have to do with changing people's personalities. No, I believe it. I believe that
Exactly. That's what this whole the whole transphobic stuff and
yeah,
just like excruciating.
it's like
Like people are people.
yeah, people are people, right? Like I don't have a problem with a transgender person, but the minute you start telling me how I have to see you, if you're looking
Yeah,
right now,
that's what I'm saying.
okay, if you right now with your beard, full beard, you're like, okay, call me Antonetta and see me as Antonetta, like, like get the fuck out of here, Tony. Like you're fucking Tony. Like I'm not gonna, I'll say whatever you want to say, but don't try and change and make me change how I see you. Like you're trying to now get me to be like mentally,
You
not.
could be who you could be who you are, but you can't. But I am who I am too, and how I see things. It might not necessarily be what you want to see, but I can't change what I see. So there's a
Don't
lot of
don't impose like that's my beef with the trans community, like trying to impose things on other people. It's
my
like
my. I don't even care. I don't even like. I don't give a fuck what people fucking do. People could fucking like. I have vision. Everybody has fucking things that they fucking whatever. But something that I would say when it comes to sports and athletics, if you're born a dude and you say you're a woman and then you go and break all the female records, that shouldn't count. Like you shouldn't be allowed, and especially if it's like martial arts or something, you shouldn't be allowed to fight women if you're born a man.
know how that's a debate. Like to me, it's such common sense. Would you want your child to like? I don't know what. Why don't they just create like a transgender Olympics, right? It's not fair to the people of the other. And I've like watched so many different videos of trans, saying I feel this way. I felt this way for the longest. Sports, I agree with you. Sports is like the one area where I'm like, you are actually harming people. People say, well, if I'm not hurting anybody, then no, you're actually harming someone. Like you have people who worked their lives to get to that level. I mean, you're coming in because you yesterday decided to have a transition, a physical transition, and now all of a sudden you can come and beat this person who's been working for so long. There's a reason why there's women's and basketball and there's men's basketball. What's the problem with that? If there's a separation between men's sports and women's sports, why shouldn't you separate based on biology? Like, why
Yeah,
don't you
exactly.
grade all sports?
Biology. I know it's only science.
It's like, okay, like then go. I think they should have like a transgender, like set, just like they had male and female, and then they should, because we're biologically different, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I don't, and the whole women versus men. That's why I'm not a feminist. That's also why I am different from a man. I know that my husband is physically stronger than me. I'm not going to test it. I know he is. Does that make me less of a person? No. I can carry children. He cannot. Maybe that makes me
It
stronger
doesn't
than him.
mean you're not a feminist either. You can still be
No,
a
I'm
feminist, but still understand the
I'm
differences.
not a feminist. I do not believe that we are equal, and I do not believe in equal pay just based on gender. No, I don't. If I work harder
Well,
than
the
a
equal
man,
pay thing, the equal pay thing is a lot of bullshit too, because
yeah,
they don't factor in different jobs.
yes.
Like,
And also maternity leave. If I get pregnant, right, I'm probably not going to work for a good 3 to 4 months. A male is still working 3 or 4. So if I own a business,
mhm.
right, and you're coming to me 9 months pregnant, I already know a baby's going to come out of this thing, right? Which lets me know you're probably not going to be working.
Baby's gonna come out of this thing.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I hope that's a baby in there.
I hope that's a baby, regardless of what comes out of
Otherwise, it just got like this.
something's gonna come out of this. But no, I don't believe in equal pay for the genders, because what if I work harder than the man, and because of a law that says men and women have to make the same? What if I
100%. We should get paid more.
Yeah, I think it should be you work harder, you get paid more. That's it. It shouldn't be equal. I hate this like equal everything. Like men and women are not equal. We're just not. We're not equal. Otherwise, why wouldn't we just all be men or all women if we're all fucking equal?
That's
Why do we
right,
have?
because there will never be equality of effort, so there shouldn't be equality of outcome.
Yes, that's my issue with some of the people on the left. They want equal outcomes. I want equal opportunities. You can't have equal
Yes.
outcomes. Just the print again, laws of behavior, right? What reinforces your behavior? It's things from the environment. Everybody's environment is different. How can you
Yeah.
control equal outcomes? You would have to have everybody in a fucking petri dish and then control that.
Right.
It's not equal outcome. If you understand the laws of behavior, you understand that equal outcomes is not even a thing. You can have twins raised in the same household and equal outcomes. Like, come on. If this happens with twins, how do you expect a whole nation to
What
have
happens with twins? The twins don't have equal outcomes?
No, they do not. I actually did a study on impulsivity, right?
Let's talk. I had that written down actually. So it's about it was the evaluation of the delay and effort of discounting behavioral measures of impulse. Huh?
How do you know that?
Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes,
All
but
right,
this one,
let's talk about that.
that one was with children. Okay, so I did a study. I started with adults and then I did it with children. So my dissertation was on studying impulsive choice in preschoolers. The majority of impulsivity or impulsive choice or impulsiveness has been done with adults. And by the way, what is impulsivity? So I should probably start with that. So impulsivity in behavior analysis, remember we measure and observe behavior. So if you have a tendency to choose the smaller immediate reward over the larger later reward, you are impulsive. For example, with kids, how can you test that? So what I did was I actually had these buttons. So I would say if you press this button, you get 1 M&M. You press this button, you get 3. If a child consistently, but by the way, if they press this, they get 3, but they have to wait.
They have to wait. Okay. Yeah, I saw like a YouTube video of like kids that were given like a small marshmallow. They were like, if this is
Experiment. That's delay of gratification. So mine was on discounting, and discounting means that the value of commodities, the value of rewards lose money. Rewards lose their value as time goes by. So $100 today is worth more to most of us than $100 in 5 years. It's still $100. What's changed? Time. Because time is going by, is a huge delay. $100 now is no longer worth $100. There are actually experiments you can do to see at what level in time $100 become now $0. And so I did that with children. I wanted to see, can you replicate that with preschoolers? It's been done with children like 6, 7, 8, 12 years old, but it hasn't been done with preschoolers like 3, 4-year-olds. So that's what I wanted to see if children can also show that as time goes by, the value of their rewards go down. And what's more rewarding to kids than candy? For us adults, it's money. but it's been tested with adults and teenagers, and yeah, it's and you should. It's called delayed discounting. So the delay in time makes the value of the reward
Got it.
less valuable. And so that's what I did with preschoolers, and then I compared it with effort. So does the amount of effort required to do something reduce the value of a reward? So if I said to Tony, would you rather have $100 for walking 1 mile or $100 for walking 50 miles? It's still $100. You're probably going to say, I'll do the 1 mile. Why?
I'll do the 50 miles because I'm a badass like that.
You know what, Tony? I will. You know, if you were in my sample, I will throw you out, right? Because that is just not normal. But that's essentially what I did. I compared the evaluation of rewards with regards to delay to the evaluation of regards with regards to effort, and I found that with children, with preschoolers, if this could be worth $1,000 to them. But if you make this dependent upon them doing a task that's really, really effortful, this now loses its value. And I just wanted to see if that could be done in children as young as 3 and 4 years old.
What did you find?
What's that?
So what did you discover?
Oh, so yeah, I found that not only it starts as young as 3. Children as young as 3 do discount the value of rewards as time goes by.
Okay.
But with them, it could be as short as 60 seconds. A 60-second delay can turn this thing from very valuable to no value at all. So that was interesting. So when you're young, your ability to wait is not as great as when you're older, obviously, which is what you kind of suspect. With effort, I also found that, yes, it's not just something that starts in adulthood. It starts even as a preschooler. They understand that, okay, this thing has no value if I have to put in so much work. And by the way, the work that they had to do was literally press buttons. So they had to press the button once, then they had to do it 5 times, then 15, then 20. I think I went as high as 30 times. And for some of the kids at 15 times, they prefer the other one, the one M&M. Because remember, the one M&M is either right away or you just have to press a button 1 time. So even something as
I don't know
large
if we could get by with one M&M. You can
Well, remember,
do it with one M&M. I need at least 3.
But and that's what you see. You see that initially they want the 3.
Very interesting.
Yeah. But anyway, back to the twins, because that's how it started. I found that I did the same experiment with twins. And these were actually Corey's, one of them was Corey's best man at the wedding. And I found that
This
even
is
though
the first.
oh wow, that's good.
What's up?
Let's just say hi. This is your first time on the podcast.
This is my first time on the podcast.
Oh,
Yes. Guest appearance here.
Yeah, we're like an hour and a half in.
Are you
This has
serious?
been the longest podcast ever recorded on Tony Talks.
like condense this into like.
But the order is a little messed up. We're going to talk about twins and then we're going to finish up.
Okay, go ahead.
So with twins, I did that same study, delay and effort discounting. So I would ask, would you rather walk 1 mile and get this much money or 50 miles? And twins, identical twins, raised in the same household, went to the same, schools up until I think university. But one was severely impulsive, severely. The other one had a lot of self-control. And so if you have twins, right, these are monozygotic twins, which is one egg that split. So their DNA is identical. You see these differences. So how can you expect some of these equal outcomes to be a thing within people? Just looking at 2 people who grew up, who literally came out of the same, womb at the same time, different when it comes to impulsiveness. That was really fascinating. I didn't expect that. I figured, if one's impulsive, the other one's going to be at least similarly. It was complete opposites. And they were actually surprised. They were surprised too. I was like, wow, like.
Is that what you were expecting?
No, I was not expecting. I was expecting similar levels of impulsivity.
That's what I would expect too.
Yeah, like I didn't expect identical levels. So like if let's say one twin was like 90% impulsive, I expected maybe like 85 to 95 for the other twin. but it was like 20% on one and like 80 to 90 on the other one, like polar opposites in terms of what is impulsivity? Impulsivity has to do with your ability to wait for the bigger reward. And raised in the same household and somehow different results. So again, the environment. And you would think they're exposed to the same environment, right? Because they're twins, they're raised by both parents. So the whole equal outcome thing is just, it's, if you understand behavior, you understand that that's just not possible, because you would need to have all these people be raised in the same environment, which isn't.
It sounds like something that is applicable to, or should be applicable to, every type of policy, every type of law, every type of, when you're making judgment on people doing things, especially with what's going on with the quarantine right now.
Yep.
So I want to talk about one last thing.
Okay.
And then I think we're at a good time to wrap it up.
Yep.
Is there anything you do aside from reading, ABA journals, to decompress during this time that we're in right now?
I
just read ABA journals.
No, not just ABA journals.
Or
like
write a manuscript.
Economics. I read. I'm reading a book on.
Oh, I could tell you read economics. We went into a little bit of everything.
I read neuroscience stuff. So yeah, no, I read. And I watch videos. I watch a lot of YouTube videos to understand both sides.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you binge watch a TV show at all?
Yes. Right now, American Horror.
You have to recommend something for
I
people that don't want to read the shit, because we could just come in, tune it to Tony Talks every so often, and we'll catch up. Something that the people could just binge watch.
Shows to recommend, obviously, American Horror Story. The last season is what we're watching right now. I've been watching because when I was getting my PhD, I was too busy with school. I never watched Game of Thrones. I didn't watch The Walking Dead. All of these big shows. So I binge watched all of them. So I have nothing to recommend that no one hasn't already watched. Like, I'm late. So if I say, I recommend The Walking Dead, they're gonna know what the fuck.
I love The Walking Dead. That was like the first show I binge watched. We watched Entourage. I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, those are the things that I'm currently watching. The Handmaid's Tale, that's a good one. Recommend that.
Okay. All right. Listen, Julyse, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I can't wait to get this out, and once I'm able to take everything in that we talked about, which will probably take a little bit. It'd be great to have you back on, and we can continue. We'll see how this social distancing plays out, and we'll see what we talked about. And then we'll come back here, because apparently Texas is looking to lift everything soon, so we'll see what happens with stuff. That's what he says. He's gonna look at it like next week. So look at it.
Okay. Well, this was fun. I had a good time. This was fun.
Is there anything you want to promote or put out there aside from everything we just talked about?
ABA.
Study it. It's a good field.
Yes, it's applied behavior analysis. Everybody should look it up and read into it. Look into it. The world needs it.
The world needs it, obviously, as we know.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. And if you have any questions, send them over to TonyTalks8podcast@gmail.com. And it's TonyTalks8 on both Twitter and Instagram. All right.